Hello students, this video is meant to help you construct your work breakdown structure. If you haven't had a lot of experience in this kind of thing, it can be difficult. It can be almost like the mystic arts. And this video is meant to help you think through a structured way to say, this is what I need, these are the kinds of tasks I need, this is how I should structure it. So I encourage you to watch this video from start to finish. Of course, always consult your instructor with any questions you have. But please enjoy as we go through the process of thinking through our work breakdown structure. The first thing you need to do is to think through the phases of the project. Now, this isn't as difficult as it might seem, because if you ask yourself certain questions, you'll really key into what you need to have in your project. In short, many folks think that phases depend on the type of work I'm doing, construction versus IT, building a house versus building a system, whatever you might think. But it really doesn't. There's commonality across all of it. So the key is to look at what you need to do in your project. So ask yourself certain questions. Do I have to collect or confirm requirements? If you have to do that, then your plan will likely have to have a requirements and a design phase, because whatever requirements you collect will then have to be designed. Because the next question is key. Do you have to build something? You would have to design to build, so if so, then your plan will likely have to have a construction phase. Then you have to ask yourself the question, if I produce anything, should I have a quality assurance phase? Of course you should. This is a no-brainer. So that is something you'll need to have. Quality assurance is a generic term for things we know as testing or verifying, words such as that. Sometimes, as you go through a project, once you create something, you have to deploy it. You must give it to the person who will use it. That becomes a question of deployment. So another question you might have is, do I need to pilot before full deployment? Then you must put a pilot phase in there. It doesn't have to necessarily be a phase. You can put it under testing, or you can put it under implementation. But if it's big enough, for example, if someone says, pilot this for 6 months at 10 locations, you might put a dedicated pilot phase. Naturally, in all projects, because projects are defined as something that has a beginning and an end. You will have an initiation and a closure. You will also, given it's a project, have the project management controls noted, because you have to produce a deliverable for that. And then you should always have execute project management tasks so that you can account for the project manager's level of effort in your estimate. The next step you must think about when you plan a project is what deliverables you need for the project. Now, many people think of deliverables as what I'm producing from the project, and that, yes, is a deliverable. Yet, that is limiting if that's all you think about when you consider what needs to be a deliverable within a project, because deliverables serve more purpose than just saying this is what I produced. Deliverables serve the purpose of gaining consensus and agreement from a client. They serve the purpose of being a milestone, a marker of agreement along the way. And if you don't have enough deliverables, it will always be a situation where you produce something at the end, and that's always vulnerable to rejection because you did not get the consensus up front. So in short, your project, depending on length especially, should have deliverables along the way. And by length I mean duration of the project. So ask questions when you think about what deliverables you might need. Ask questions such as, how do I document an agreement on requirements? This is the biggest thing that can submarine a project, and that is not having an agreement on what the requirements were, or requirements being too vague, or anything like that. It invites scope creep. It invites disagreement, displeasure, what is ultimately produced. So, given that you're going to want to get agreement on requirements, your plan will likely have a requirements deliverable. Then, if you design on that, you may even have a design deliverable. Many will combine the requirements and design deliverable into one deliverable. Sometimes, though, if the project's huge, you might separate the two. As always, though, when you collect requirements and you design what you're about to create, you then create it. That's otherwise known as construct or build. So, if your plan needs to consider a construction phase, you should have the deliverables that consider that. If you have a really long construction that has to happen, you don't want to go too far without getting agreement from your client or your customer, even if it's an internal stakeholder. You want to make sure they're invested in what you're creating, so you will have deliverables along the way. They could include stages of development. Stage 1, you could have a prototype created. You can show a 25% complete, such as I framed the building. That's a deliverable. I've created the floors. That's another deliverable. I've finished the floors, including walls and wallboard and painting, etc. That's another deliverable. And then, there's all sorts of places you can go, but that gives a percentage milestone. It gives an opportunity to say the work's been done, the work's been done to satisfaction, please pay me. That's what it comes down to. So that's what you might consider as you construct. If you produce anything, you should always have a quality assurance phase. This will otherwise be known as testing, so you want to get confirmation from the client that they agree the product meets standard. But a part of this could be creating a test plan they agree to too. So that could be multiple deliverables, the test plan, and then the test confirmation. These are deliverables. As always, given we're in a project management field, we're going to always create a project management controls document that allows us to govern the project based on best practices. This should be agreed upon because it will include things like issue management and communication, including escalation, risk management. You want your client to invest in how you're going to handle that. So these must be approved. Project management controls should be approved. So by going through the exercise of thinking the phases and the deliverables, you've really created a framework already for your work breakdown chart. You know how you're going to progress and what your ultimate outcome is going to be. Those are the two biggest questions for a work breakdown structure. From there, you just fill in the gaps and you fill them out with tasks. But before we get to the tasks, the key is lay out your phases and your deliverables first in your project work breakdown structure. So let's go through an example, because you really need an example to know how to maybe frame this up. I mean, this isn't something everyone does every day, so let's think it through. So let's just say you're thinking about your phases. You've decided that you need to do a sequential project, a waterfall project. You know that the client or the person you're servicing hasn't really thought through what they need, so you're going to have to help them think through that. That's what we would call in a project collecting and then confirming requirements. Knowing that they haven't thought that through, you're going to design, so you have to create a design document. Then you have to build what you design. Then you have to ensure it will work. That's testing or verification. And then you have to make it ready for use. So that could be deployment or implementation. All of this very short paragraph, which may seem simple and basic, comes with a bunch of things. You can see right from this paragraph what deliverables you might need. And this is a minimum statement that's being made right now in this example. You're going to need a project management controls plan because, as always noted in every class, your project management majors, since you're mastering the art of project management, you have to recognize that there has to be agreement on how you're going to govern a project. Those are the project management controls. Sometimes people call them the project management plan. Don't care what you call it. You have to have those things agreed upon. Those include all of the knowledge areas of the PMBOK, the project management body of knowledge, the 10 knowledge areas, and the area applying. And I say it that way because there may be occasion that procurement management may not be included, but any area included should be represented in your project management control plan, especially communication, management, risk management, and the like. Since you must collect requirements and design, you must get a sign-off from the client, because you don't want to be building something you're not sure they really want. So that has to be a deliverable. Your build will last several months in this case, so if that's the case, you want to get their investment along the way. Think about space shuttle builders. They're not going to just start going with and then finish and then say, do you like it? Along the way, they're going to make sure folks are feeling invested in what they're building. And then finally, if you deploy, you must confirm deployment. This is a part of the project and you must have a deliverable for that. That could be a deployment sign-off, a memo of sorts. So let's continue on with our example. We thought through it. We thought we needed a waterfall. We thought through the fact that we were going to have to collect and confirm requirements, etc. So as we thought through it, we said, hey, the phases are pretty clear. We're going to have to initiate a project because a project is always has a beginning and an end with a defined output. So we initiate the beginning, always has to have that. Then if we're doing requirements, we have to have analysis on those requirements. And requirements would include workshops, find those requirements. Then once we confirm what they're asking us to build, we have to design that. We don't just go into building something we haven't even thought through. So design has to be confirmed as well. And then we're going to construct it. These are the phases, testing, etc. Then we have the deliverables. Again, we talked a little bit about this. So PM controls, every project, ever, should have some kind of PM controls document. Again, I define that as a project management plan. Some projects that are really large might break this out. I've been on projects where they broke out all the knowledge areas into their own individual plans. Not my preference, but I get it when you're in a large project and you have to agree to all that. Requirements document, you absolutely have to get them to sign off on what you're supposed to build. Then, given that there might be options into how you build it, quote unquote the design, you want to get their buy-off on that too. That's definitely a deliverable. Then you create a construction deliverable. If it's a project of duration, you're going to have some milestone events along the way. Then you're going to want to get internal testing confirmation. That might be a deliverable. It might even be a deliverable facing the client. We have system tested and this is what we saw. But ultimately, you're going to do some kind of quality confirmation from the client, meaning they saw what they saw and they liked it and it wasn't deficient, so they agreed it wasn't deficient. Once it's not deficient, then you can deploy it, and that's the deployment completion confirmation. These are all deliverables you might include in the project. So the next thing you do is you start to model the plan. And I have advertised that this tool is free for use off of techbuzzkill.com. You're welcome to use it. You don't have to use it if you don't want. But it's something I make available to my industry peers, and it's available to the students in the class as well. So let's go back to it. We know what we need. We need these phases. 6 phases. We know we want this. We don't even have construct closer here. We're going to put that in too. But then we know we have these deliverables too. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 deliverables. So this is easy. I mean, really it is. So let's go. We're going to say, okay, we need certain phases. We're going to pick them. Put them in the project plan. There it is. Okay. So we have those phases. We know we want a closure phase, so if we don't have it, let's put it in. We want to do this well. There it is, closure. So now we let's go back to deliverables. We want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now in the tool, you can pick deliverables that are pretty close. Now you don't have to use these deliverables. You can write them in no matter what. Let's just consider it. We know we want to have a project controls deliverable, so let's look for that. There it is. So let's pick it. We're going to put it in here. There it is. We may say, okay, we're going to just submit it without a bunch of approvals. I've just done that. We always want to have a submittal time frame model in our plan because sometimes clients take a while. So we have that. Let's go back to our plan. We want to have requirements. So the requirements document. That would go in the analysis phase. We have a deliverable tracker here. Let's look for a requirements document. Let's just say you're in an IT project. Let's just use that. There it is. This might take a little bit more work, so we're going to put 2 reviews in it. There it is. So we have our phases modeled, and we're starting to work on our deliverables. Let's just keep going. A design. So we may want a design deliverable. Let's take a look. And again, this isn't something you have to use from the tool. You can use whatever you want. Doesn't matter, but let's just say we want a technical spec. That is the best available deliverable in our descriptions. And there it is. This again could take more than 1 review. We want to always model that in our schedule. I'll put more than 1 review in there. Yeah, I think you're starting to get the point. The bottom line is now you're modeling your phases. And you're modeling the deliverables that go underneath that phase. So if you've done the exercise the way I've structured it, you're going to think this through. You're going to then think this through. You're going to model it, and then you're going to create a plan that drives towards it. I know I have these deliverables. It could be how I get paid. It could be how I gain consensus. Doesn't matter. It's pretty darn accurate. So I put those in. I have my phases in, and then I start creating my tasks. The tasks lead to deliverables, so they may be all the tasks that go before then. But if you were to use the tool I've provided, even if you don't put any tasks in, you can put some pretty darn close deliverables with the correct